Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Marina Grosu from Washington, D.C. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin said that the time has come to take action and to establish a definitive and just peace in Ukraine and all gray areas of Europe. He was addressing heads of states from Europe at the 4th summit of the Council of Europe in Iceland's capital, Reykjavik. The Council is an international outfit that seeks to protect human rights and the rule of law in the European continent. Speaking at the meeting on Wednesday, the top Holy See statements quoted the words of Pope Francis, saying, "The passionate quest of a politics of community and the strengthening of multilateral ties remains a wistful memory." He told the heads of state that Europe should not forget the Ukrainian people who suffer and die. Cardinal Parolin said, "We cannot accept passively that the war of aggression in that tormented country continues." He concluded by saying that the Vatican will do its utmost to pursue peace across the continent and the world. Following backlash from Catholic leaders, the U.S. baseball team Los Angeles Dodgers has announced that it will take off its lineup on June 16th, a group of transvestite performers who mock the Catholic religion. The team had proposed to conduct a homosexual event named LGBTQ Pride Night, where they intended to honor the Los Angeles chapter of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. It is a group of homosexual women who dress up as Catholic nuns to make a mockery of the Catholic faith. They were supposed to be awarded the Community Hero Award by the Dodgers. This was strongly criticized by Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of San Francisco on Twitter. The Catholic League condemned the proposed event as anti-Catholic hate speech. Republican Florida Senator Marco Rubio also shot off a letter to the commissioner of Major League Baseball asking why the body was honoring a group that mocks Christians by means of diabolical parodies of the faith. A British human rights organization is denouncing the intentional attacks on places of worship in conflict-hit Sudan. In a report published on Thursday, Christian Solidarity Worldwide reported various crimes against Christian churches amid the fighting in the African nation between the military and the paramilitary unit. Founding president of the organization, Thomas Mervyn, said that the warring factions are taking control over places of worship and using them as military bases. The outfit decried the bombing of worship centers, the expulsion of priests from churches, and the seizure of religious buildings. Reiterating their calls for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire, the group is urging the international community to pledge its long-term support for the advancement, defense, and fulfillment of human rights, as well as for truce in Sudan. Meanwhile, the United Nations has launched an appeal for $3 billion in aid after estimating that 25 million people in Sudan need assistance due to the ongoing conflict. In the Islamic Republic of Iran, the authorities have released 2 Christians from jail last week. Both Humayun Javeh and his wife Sarah Ahmadi were released from prison after the judge ruled that participating in a home church service was not against the law. 64-year-old Javeh and his 45-year-old wife had renounced Islam to embrace Christianity, an act which is frowned upon in the conservative Muslim nation. Ordering their release, the judge said that belonging to a house church or taking part in worship within the closed doors of a house with people of the same religion did not constitute a crime. It was in November 2020 that Ahmadi was sentenced to 11 years in jail. Her sentence was reduced to 8 years. Her husband was given 2 years in jail. Conservative American lawmakers and pro-life supporters want the so-called Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or FACE Act, to be either repealed or amended. They allege that there is a double standard in its enforcement based on a person's conviction regarding abortion. Chairman of the U.S. House Judiciary Committee's Subcommittee on the Constitution and Limited Government, Representative Mike Johnson, said on Tuesday that the law was being used as a tool to prosecute pro-life supporters and protect those who attack pro-lifers and pregnancy resource centers. He also pointed out that prosecution of Mark Houck as an example of how a pro-life supporter was unduly prosecuted under the FACE Act. American conservative legal entities have expressed grave concern over the Biden administration's newly announced guidelines on religious expression in schools. They allege that it might lead to a spurt in violations of the First Amendment rights of teachers and students. On Monday, the U.S. Department of Education came out with a new guidance on constitutionally protected prayer and religious expression in public elementary and secondary schools. Counsel at the First Liberty Institute, Keisha Russell, said that there are concerns with the new guidelines. She said the guidance depends on the old provisions of the overturned Lemon Verdict of 1971. It allowed for government involvement in religion if it served a secular purpose or did not prohibit or promote any religion. However, the department said that the purpose of the guidance was to provide information on the present law governing constitutionally protected prayer in public schools. A prominent international rights outfit has said that Afghanistan is facing acute food insecurity. Human Rights Watch said in a report that 2/3 of the nation's population is food insecure. The recent ban on women working in NGOs serving the nation has made the distribution of humanitarian aid all the more severe. The report said that 875,000 children face acute malnutrition, and women and girls remain most at risk. Drastic loss of humanitarian aid will leave many Afghans poorer and hungrier, according to the report. Spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, Stefan Dujarric, said that the additional information he has reveals that the humanitarian situation remains critical in the country and the operations remain underfunded. Earlier, World Bank said in its report that Afghanistan is among one of 7 nations facing a catastrophic level of food crisis. In the U.S. state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis has inked into law several bills, one of which includes a ban on gender-altering treatments for children and the use of gender-neutral pronouns in schools. While signing the bills into law on Wednesday, May 17th, the Republican governor said Florida is going to be a sanctuary of sanity and a citadel of normalcy. SB 254, signed into law, prevents anyone under the age of 18 from undergoing so-called sex-altering interventions, including surgeries. It also makes permanent a state rule that bans Medicaid from reimbursing people of all age groups who undergo such procedures. House Bill 1069, inked by the governor, ensures that Florida students and teachers will not be forced to declare pronouns in schools or be coerced to use pronouns not corresponding with their biological sex. The Louisiana House of Representatives in the United States approved a bill on Tuesday, May 16th, that bans sex reassignment interventions for minors suffering with gender dysphoria. House Bill 463 was proposed by Republican Representative Gabe Ferment and passed the House with 71 votes in favor and 24 votes against it. Several Democratic lawmakers also supported the bill. The proposed legislation makes it illegal for medical professionals to use hormone treatments, gender reassignment surgery, or puberty blockers on patients under 18. The bill also establishes penalties for healthcare professionals who provide such interventions. The bill will now advance to the Republican-controlled Senate. The U.S. International Commission on Religious Freedom, or USCIRF, has said that the prolonged captivity of a Nigerian girl abducted by Islamists in 2018 is totally unacceptable. Leah Sarah was only 14 when she was abducted by members of the Boko Haram, along with 110 other girls from the Dapchi Government College of Science and Technology in Yobe State on February 19, 2018. While the other girls were released the following month, Leah was held hostage because she refused to accept Islam. USCIRF said that in a statement on May 14th, the U.S. government has to do everything it can to put pressure on the Nigerian government to act. USCIRF Commissioner Frederick Davey said in a statement that Leah spent most of her teenage years in captivity because she remained true to her religious convictions. He also blames the government led by former President Muhammadu Buhari for making little progress in securing the girl's release. The Archbishop of Sydney in Australia has condemned the Labour government of the Australian Capital Territory for the proposed takeover of Calvary Public Hospital. Archbishop Anthony Fisher emphasized the anti-life agenda behind the potential takeover. The prelate made his remarks a week after the government introduced legislation to allow Canberra Health Services to acquire and run the Bruce campus of Calvary Hospital in early July. He noted that Calvary Health Care has been operating hospitals and aged care facilities for decades, providing Canberrans with high-quality medical treatment. The Archbishop expressed his concerns that the government's intentions to take up the hospital will force them to provide abortions, euthanasia, and assisted suicide in the future. He further asked the government to reverse its decision. Meanwhile, the Right to Life organization has called the people to sign a petition to save vulnerable patients and stop the government's anti-life legislative agenda. 2 weeks after the outbreak of violence in the northeastern Indian state of Manipur, Archbishop Dominic Lumon of Imphal is pleading for assistance for those in need. While mourning the lives lost due to mob violence, the prelate wants aid on behalf of his archdiocese for thousands of people who have been displaced. He says the area is filled with fear, uncertainty, and an overall sense of helplessness and desperation following days of violence and arson. The violence was a result of clashes between the predominantly Christian Kiku minority and the mostly Hindu Meitei majority, and it has left homes and churches in ruins. In the wake of the attacks, the army imposed a curfew in the state capital and all 16 districts. The Archbishop says the wounds remain deep, and more than 45,000 people continue to live in cramped relief camps. The Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. has a new sculpture celebrating the sanctity of life. A bronze sculpture of the pregnant Virgin Mary was unveiled on the premises of the Theological College on May 17th. This new National Life Monument has been entitled Advent, and it is meant to be a symbol of beauty, a celebration of new life, and a pro-life statement. The sculpture has been created by Canadian artist Timothy Paul Schmaltz, and it was dedicated by Archbishop of Washington Cardinal Wilton Gregory in the presence of Canadian Cardinal Marc Ouellet. While praying over the monument, Cardinal Gregory gave a special blessing to all those who were present. He praised the sculpture, saying, "Advent, as a pregnant Madonna, transcends bronze, revealing a deeper significance, deeper truths of God and of us, and His love for each of us, graced as we are in His image and likeness." And those are your latest headlines. Join us again tomorrow for more. You can also visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.